Or we'll adjourn. We'll open the meeting now. We're done. See you later. Thanks for coming. All right, we'll call to order. Rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's hilarious. All right. Item 1B, approval of agenda and items for discussion.
I move that the agenda for the August 11th, 2025 regular meeting be approved.
Support.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Shaw, support by Mr. Campbell. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I actually have something to add here. I would like to make an amendment I'd like to amend the agenda to add item 2D, which would be basically an action item to confirm the appointment of the vice president. After reviewing the last meeting we had July 21st at the 16:21 minute mark, the word nominate was used for vice president instead of the word appoint. Mm-hmm. So we will just go ahead and I have a motion that we can read when we get there, but I would like to amend the agenda to include an action item 2D to confirm the appointment of the vice president.
Okay, motion to amend the agenda to include item 2D, confirm the appointment of the vice president. Motion by Mrs. Shaw.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Campbell. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend?
Was there another position we had to include as well? Or no?
We thought there was. We
Just one?
reconfirmed. Thank you for asking that. Yes, we thought there was a second one, but we went back and listened again, and they were all clear. They all used the word appoint, except for this one motion. Thank you for asking. Any further discussion? All right, motion to amend to add item 2D to the agenda, confirm appointment of vice president. Let's see, Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mrs. Custodio.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. The motion to amend carries. So now returning to the original motion on the table to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any further discussion?
Do we need to modify the minutes?
The minutes have actually been modified. Renee has updated the minutes to reflect that, and I believe the minutes that we have here at our seats reflect that change.
They are correct.
They
Yes.
were not updated in the original packet because that original packet is now one big PDF file, and it may have been a challenge to update just that one small page, or that one page with the small change. So when the minutes are approved and they are posted on the website, they will reflect that change.
Okay, but that's not, okay. It's been updated.
Yes.
So what we're voting on will be the updated to reflect what we've discussed.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yep, the
thank you.
version that you have in front of you now. Any further discussion on the approval of the agenda as amended? Okay. Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That motion passes. Item 1C, consent agenda.
I move that the consent agenda for the August 11th, 2025 regular meeting be approved.
Support.
Motion by Mrs. Shaw, support by Mr. Campbell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Item 1C, consent agenda. Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That motion passes. Item 1D, superintendent's report. Mr. Hughes.
Welcome. Busy time of year, as you know, as we get ready for our first day of school on the 18th, Monday the 18th. Just a reminder to the board, I know many of you have already responded to me that you will attend opening day breakfast. I just don't want to miss any of you when you're there, so please as I'm busy talking to people, you just say hello to me, so I know you're there, and I make sure I introduce you to the staff at opening day breakfast. Again, that's Thursday. Breakfast starts at 7:30, and then the program starts at 8 o'clock. We'll go ahead and introduce new hires. So let's start with Misty Gunn at Creekside. We have a new hire, McKenna Kalamanik. And remember, you already made the motion to hire her. She was out of town, so she's here now.
Absolutely. So I'm pleased to introduce you to McKenna Kalamanik. McKenna will be teaching music over at Creekside this year. She's a recent graduate of U of M, and then her ability to relate to students has been phenomenal, said her professors. She's also stated that she's going to do an amazing job wherever she goes, and if they had a music position there, they would have hired her in a heartbeat. So I just wanted to introduce you to her and tell her to welcome aboard.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really excited to start working in Hartland.
Cool. Congrats. Just so you know, board, McKenna was a tuba player at University of Michigan. She said at times she carried 2 tubas. Just so you know, right?
It's impressive.
All right. All right. Next, we'll have Mr. Reck.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's good to be back in front of you with 2 hires that age me a bit. I had, it's really a cool moment for me in my educational career to bring back 2 of my former high school students to teach at Village Elementary. And we're going to start with Mr. Yancho. Jacob Yancho is a Michigan State grad. He worked as our building sub last year, and he was a key member of our team. Jump in, do whatever needed to be done, including some really tough long-term assignments and some tough asks of him. And he had a smile on his face every day, regardless of it, won the trust of the staff, won the trust of the students, and the ability to bring him back and to his home elementary school to teach in a room that he was in as a student is a great full circle moment, and we're really, really happy to have Jacob on our team.
Thank you, Mr. Reck. It's hard to call you Jason, so I got to call you Mr. Reck. But thanks. I'm really excited to be back teaching where I used to go to school, and thanks everyone for the opportunity.
The next one was a graduate from Central Michigan University with a business degree, and upon graduation contacted her former principal, Miss Gregory, and said, I would love to be an educator. Miss Gregory called me and said, I have Neely King here, wants a chance to teach. I had the opportunity to bring her in as a building sub at the end of the year as she was starting her master's degree. We were able to hire her last year as a long-term sub in 4th grade, and what a stellar performance. Student growth, relationships, all the things that you would ask of a veteran teacher. Neely walked in, had her voice, was a member of our staff, just phenomenal job. If you were to ask what was the source of that, in my house, Mrs. Rex says because she had her in kindergarten, and we recognized it from that point forward, and so glad to officially hire Neely King.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity. I am so grateful and so excited to start this year and continue to be in this community where I was raised and where I graduated from.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am excited to introduce Erin Quinn as a new second grade teacher at Lakes, but really this is a reintroduction because Erin was a Hartland teacher from 2005 until 2016, at which point she took the opportunity to stay home with her boys for a few years. So we are thrilled to bring Erin back to the Hartland team. Some of Erin's strengths include her knowledge of our community and our expectations for teaching, her ability to meet kids where they are to support their growth, her understanding of scaffolding of supports, and her experiences with early literacy. And our team really loves her calm and organized demeanor as well. So when we asked her at the last interview question, why should we hire you? Erin said, I can hit the ground running. So that was the clincher for us. So please welcome Erin Quinn.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight. Thank you for having me. A little nostalgic. It's been 20 years since the first time I did this, so probably to the date. But another little fun fact, Jacob Yancho was my third grade student, and that was our third grade classroom, so that was fun. Made me feel a little old, but that was fun. I am just excited to be here, excited to reestablish myself in the classroom, meet my class, and get started. So, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Happy summer. I am where is she? There she is. Super excited to introduce you to Kristen Memmering. I cannot tell you how excited we were when we got to interview her. We had interviewed some people from math positions, but we were looking for that specific one. She is going to touch 150 kids' lives a year. We have 3 6th grade math teachers that service the entire population or the entire graduating class. So we knew that we needed the specific one. When we talked to her, it was very evident through her interview that not only does she already implement the workshop model, but she cares about kids. And that to me is most important. She talked about how she meets them where they are, how she makes the match, and how she is sure to do interventions for all kids. We literally could not have found a better candidate, and I'm excited to introduce you to Kristen Memmering.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so excited to be part of the family here in Hartland and can't wait to get started.
Ms. Brisky, I know that Juliana could not be here tonight, but at the next meeting, we'll bring her before the board and at least introduce her, okay? Also, board, just so you know, we do have a couple of potential hires in the works. We're working on a middle school science teacher, and we're working on some things at the high school, and potentially a special ed teacher. So as we move forward, if we get those people coming forward before school starts, before the next board meeting, we'll give them an emergency hire and bring them to the board, okay? So just be aware that that's what we're working on. Thank you all. You do not have to stay if you don't choose to. You can, you see this exciting meeting, but you don't have to, okay? Next on my agenda is just to talk very briefly about the breakfast lunch program. I'll do a real quick, and then Rachel, if you would jump in where you need to. You know that the last couple of years we've been provided funding to feed breakfast and lunch to all students in our school districts across the state of Michigan. Right now, We don't know where the legislators are going to land on this topic. I've talked with the legislators. They've got some different views on what should or should not happen. So we're just waiting. In the meantime, up until September 30th, the end of the fiscal year, we will feed breakfast and lunch to all of the students that want to eat at school. After that date, we don't know what's going to happen. At this point in time, we'll be putting information out to ask parents to start signing up their students, unless we hear quickly from the legislators, for a free and reduced lunch program after September 30th. So Rachel, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The one thing, though, we still would like to encourage families to fill out free and reduced regardless, because that drives a lot of the federal funding that we receive through Title I, Title II is through those applications. You know, most of our students, we have our free direct cert, which means that they receive other type of programs, and so they're automatically qualified. They don't have to fill out an application. So, you know, if you're not automatically qualified and you feel like there would be a need, it's still beneficial to fill out that application anyways. But you pretty much covered everything. If we have to go back to a paid model, like we had a discussion item back in June about the need to increase those lunch prices. The last time we adjusted lunch pricing was back in 2019. And since then, since 2020, we've had some sort of a free meal program. So we'll get that put together. If it looks like we're going to have to go back in that direction, we'll have that to present to you to approve at next month's meeting. And then starting October 1st, if the legislature doesn't act, then we will have to go back to that model.
Any questions? All right. So ends the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Moving on to item 1E, call to the public. Renee, do you have any cards? Okay, I do not either. Moving on to item 1F, committee and building reports.
I don't have a building report, but want to take the time to speak about an incredible experience I had last week. Had assistance with a little write-up about that. I was a chaperone at band camp, and it was great. But this year's week-long band camp for the Hartland Marching Eagles involved nearly 250 students, staff, and chaperones at Camp Nisakone in Oscoda, Michigan. We had challenging weather at the end of the week, but the band overcame and learned the entire first halftime show to proudly present it to parents and the community last Saturday at Hartland Stadium. The focus of the camp is far more than just music and marching instruction, as it prioritizes building teamwork, leadership, and personal growth for students of very different backgrounds, personalities, and abilities. Everybody's hard work leads to working together towards a greater goal while instilling communication, problem solving, and leadership skills that benefit all these kids far beyond band. Credit to those involved. A camp like this is only possible to the extraordinary teachers, staff, parents, chaperones, and band boosters we have at Hartland. While hard to truly impress on others, we're very fortunate to have the music directors we have in the Hartland School District. One thing I learned that's pretty incredible, another thing about Hartland that we're doing great at is possibly still at this time, but at one point we had the largest high school marching band in the state of Michigan. Right now about 206-ish kids. And credit to those at the top, Mr. and Mrs. Lively, Mrs. Tennis. Community appreciates you all so much. So the games are going to be tough. First one September 5th. Everybody wants to get their concessions, but consider hanging out in the stands and cheering on the band. It's pretty incredible, and I can't wait to see it at their first game. So again, Lively's, Mrs. Tennis, thank you very much.
Mrs. Shaw.
I don't have anything either, but as always, go band.
Mr. Keller.
No report.
Mr. Scott.
I don't have a report for my assigned building, but I did get a chance to stop by Round today and interact with some of the staff and administrators, and it was kind of electric in there. I mean, they were like buzzing, ready for the students to be back. They still had a lot of work to do, but it's just really great to see everybody, even though we're still in August, everybody gearing up, ready to go, ready to hit the ground running. So kudos to all the teachers and the staff who have been in the buildings over the last few weeks doing what needs to be done to get ready for the students. And so thank you to all.
Ms. Custodio.
I don't have anything, but I'm excited for my first meeting at Village this week.
Very nice. I just have a couple of items. That's great that you've got time set up with Mr. Reck at Village, but if you can give your building administrator for the buildings that you're assigned to maybe just a little bit of grace for setting up like a recurring meeting, whatever. Obviously establish contact, but maybe give them some grace on when that first meeting happens, depending on what their availability is. And then I just wanted to add in that the Senior Center open house is September 4th from 11 in the morning to 1. And it's always a good time, lots of free stuff. You can check out all the services and activities and stuff that they have to offer. And I understand that WHMI will also be present at that time doing a remote broadcast, as I understand it. All right. Moving on to item 2A.
I move that the Board of Education, sorry, you didn't read it. Go ahead.
Okay. Item 2A, the authorization of designees for treasurer and secretary responsibilities. Before you read it, though, I just wanted to kind of provide an update. I think I reached out to everyone here and Mr. Gogolewski too, just to let everybody know that we're awaiting input from legal counsel on the questions that Mr. Keller and Mr. Campbell provided. Since they are the treasurer and the secretary, they're probably most impacted by this item. In order to make a more informed decision, it may be worth considering a postponement. So I wanted to throw that out before we make the motion to actually make the vote and just maybe generate some discussion around that and then decide what motion we'd like to go forward with. Do you want to add anything, Mr. Keller or Mr. Campbell?
No, I think that's appropriate to postpone, being that we're waiting on the input.
Okay. And we should have that this week, so it will be in plenty of time for next week's meeting. It just wasn't in time, or next month's meeting. It just wasn't in time for this meeting. So could someone possibly read a motion to postpone this item?
Would it be postponed until the policy meeting or the next board meeting?
Next regular meeting?
Next regular meeting. Because I don't know, we're already set to discuss the policies, each of the policies that cover the board roles. That's already on the policy committee agenda. So we would be postponing this to the next regular meeting for a vote.
I'll make that motion to postpone this matter until the next regular board meeting in September.
Okay, motion to postpone.
Support.
Was that you, Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion to postpone by Mr. Campbell, supported by Mr. Scott. We'll postpone item 2A, authorization of designees for treasurer and secretary responsibilities to the next regular meeting in September. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay. Mr. Campbell?
Support, yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That motion carries. Item 2B, resolution to designate legal counsel. Similarly,
Yeah, so I'll jump in here. I know I had sent these out, the resolution to designate legal counsel, sent out to the board last month. It was a discussion last month, but it's been a short month, short turnaround. Everybody's been very busy. I asked for feedback from the board, and I got some feedback. And in general, the feedback was, we're not sure if the resolution will be necessary or not at this point in time. I believe we're going to add reviewing the legal policy to our agenda for our committee of the whole. So I would similarly make a motion to postpone the resolution to designate legal counsel to our September 15th meeting.
and that is also, sorry, Mr. Keller, why don't you go ahead?
Support.
Okay, thanks. I also wanted to note that if we discuss this item when we discuss this in the policy committee meeting, if we determine that the resolution is no longer needed, then then it
Sure.
won't be included in that September agenda.
Sure.
We're postponing it in the event that there is a vote. We'll postpone it to that next regular meeting, but we may decide in the interim that it's not necessary.
Yeah, I'm
Just want
fine
to make
with
sure
that.
everybody's on
Sure.
the same page with that. Okay, all right, so this was motion to postpone from Mr. Scott and supported by Mr. Keller. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Okay. Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion to postpone carries. Item 3C, resolution requiring searchable PDF documents for administrative documents.
So I'll jump in here again. So similar situation, a resolution was introduced to require searchable documents from administration. I want to commend the administration over the last few months for making big strides to make sure that the documents that are published to the public and to the board are in a very user-friendly format, and the effort does not go unnoticed. So a big thank you to all that have been involved. The feedback I've gotten from board members offline is, again, short turnaround, and many want to have a discussion with Mr. Usher or sit down with Mr. Usher about kind of feasibility of what we're asking for. So I would make a motion to postpone the resolution regarding searchable PDF documents until the September 15th meeting.
Support.
Okay, motion to postpone from Mr. Scott, supported by Mr. Campbell. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay. Again, this is motion to postpone item 2C, resolution requiring searchable PDF documents for administrative documents. Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion to postpone carries. And then now we have item 2D, which we added, and that is confirmation of the appointment of the vice president.
I motion to appoint Cindy Shaw for the office of vice president.
Motion to appoint Cindy Shaw as vice president from Mr. Campbell. I will second that. Is there any discussion on the motion? I just wanted to clarify, I'll add in that there's technically nothing legally that would void our vote in the previous meeting, but since there was a concern raised from one of the trustees, we wanted to just reconfirm the vote to make it officially official, I guess, so that there was no question. But the intent was clear in the meeting and in the recording, but we're just dotting our i's and crossing our t's. Any further discussion? Okay. Motion to appoint Cindy Shaw to the office of vice president. Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Just so that I'm consistent, I'll vote no.
Thank you. Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That motion carries. All right, moving on to item 3A, strategic plan goal objectives. Mr. Hughes, would you like to start?
So as the board knows, we went through the strategic planning process. The board adopted the vision, mission, belief statements, and goals. Board, just so you know, part of my presentation at opening breakfast will be going over that with our staff at the morning breakfast, so we'll go over those components that have been adopted. We also have posters made up for every classroom as well as every entranceway with those 4 components that the board has adopted. We do have it posted on our website, and if you look at our website, you'll see the goals at the bottom. And then once we get the objectives okayed, you'll be able to click on each one of those goals and see the objectives within that document. So we're working on that process to make sure that the community clearly has knowledge of what the board has adopted moving forward. What you have in front of you, what I shared and what's in the packet, is a draft based on our work with Greg Janicki, all of the administrators. You're well aware that we all work together on developing these objectives for those goal areas. We identified the metrics to be used in these goal areas. I did get input from Mr. Keller and played with the document. Unfortunately, I couldn't meet with all 25 of our ad staff because we had already met on August 1st, and I didn't have time to do that once I got those thought processes. Mr. Keller, thank you for going back and figuring out how to put the changes to the original document, because that's in front of you. You know, we're scrambling to open it, the opening day, so we just didn't have time for me to say, throw everything aside and let's go back and do that, so I appreciate that you did that. I also got feedback from Mr. Scott this afternoon, and so in front of you, I dropped off a spreadsheet that shows the goal areas in a score sheet format. And I called it measures of success and metrics. So the first one, for instance, MSTEP proficiency scores 3 through 11, and the metrics is in parentheses, 3% improvement is what the goal area is to try to reach for. So this document lists all of these components. It's for you guys to discuss and decide whether or not you think that this will move us forward. Again, coming from all of your administrative team, not just Chuck Hughes, not just this administrative team, it's the whole district administrative team. We feel what we put in front of you is a really good document to guide us into the future. We've taken the input, we've tried to put some of that input in here. Again, created a score sheet if that's what the board wants to adopt to go along with this as something we can put online. Here's what my plan is once this is adopted. I think it's important the board knows this. What we will add underneath each metric section is evidence of effort. So we will have a category, evidence of effort, under each of the metrics as outlined in the goal plan. And so periodically, every month or every 2 months, every quarter, I'll come to the board. It's up to you to tell me when you want me to do that. And I'll be able to share that document with you with the exact evidence of effort of what we've been doing throughout the year. So when we get to the end of the year, there's no surprises. You know exactly what we've been doing and what the data is saying. Also, just want the board to understand, no different than with our staff, when we set GRAS goals with our staff, we set GRAS goals that may not be attainable. They're goals, right? I know Megan, former President Megan, used to call them stretch goals. There may be goals that the evidence of effort clearly shows the board that effort was made towards these goals, but for whatever reason we didn't meet that goal. That happens. That's pretty, the key is what's the evidence of effort say, and what is your interpretation of the evidence of effort that we put into establishing a process to get the goal accomplished. So we think, again, most of these are multi-year faceted goals, moving us forward, getting us thinking about programs and processes and all the things that we have to do to make sure our district is in really good shape moving forward. We think we're in good shape as it is. This helps us to get better, because every new teacher that you saw tonight sat in my office with Kate and I, and there's a book right on the shelf, Good to Great. And I point it out every single time. And I tell them we don't agree with that. And they go, what? I said, no, we don't agree with Collins' Good to Great, because all of our greats can be something different. My great might be 90%, and then you say, no, it should be 91%, right? And so, but we all know what better looks like. We all know what better looks like. So our effort in putting this in front of you is to get better, and hopefully you will support what's in front of you as the work that this administration did to put it in front of you. So we appreciate that.
Is there any other discussion at this time?
Yeah, I guess I would like to make a couple of comments. First of all, I appreciate the matrix that's or a scorecard that you have in front of us here. One of the things that I wanted to just kind of highlight with the academics and programs, I know I shared my feedback already with you, Mr. Hughes, and the team. What I'd like to understand on this scorecard, how do we evaluate the individual student? And what I mean by that is when we look at something like MyKIP, and our scorecard is actually taking more of a district-wide approach, is there a way to somehow combine or update the scorecard if it doesn't currently account for it, a way so that we're looking at literally across the board and kind of trying to understand how many of our students actually improved and met that target versus having maybe some students get 10% growth, some get, don't grow at all, but as an average it says 5, right? But how do we ensure that or take into account that every single student is growing? I guess that's what I would like to see if what we have here doesn't necessarily account for that. And I hope I'm articulating that properly, but that's one of my thoughts on the academics and programs. I did still have some questions, and I understand that, this is, potentially 1 year, 2 year, 3 year goals, but I would like to see some more emphasis on the CTE offerings. I know that isn't necessarily something we can turn on in 2 weeks, but I'd like to see where that sort of fits in the scorecard. Same for the highly capable offerings. I think we do a great job with the MTSS to try to, find what works for individual students, but I'd like to see some more challenges for some of the highly capable students. With the culture and learning, I struggled a little bit with just how the naming of that particular objective. So I guess I would ask maybe you go back and reconsider that, the culture and learning environment piece. When we were there at the retreat, I think, there was, 35 people or so, and, the 3 top vote getters, I don't think made it into what we have, at least in what I've seen so far. So I think, I want to make sure we're taking into account everyone's input from, again, that subset of 35 people, which I felt was a very good audience coming from lots of different backgrounds and, folks that pay a lot of attention to what's going on in the school. So I think that their input is very valuable, and we should make sure we incorporate that. And I think some of the examples that they gave were more social workers at elementary schools, talked about SROs. I know we've touched on that topic in other board meetings, but the other one that I found we need to consider is the academics over athletics. And I know, last board meeting's a great example. We had a bunch of students won the state championship. I think that's a great thing. But I'd like to see other opportunities for the kids that excel. And I know we had some activity with our top 10 students, which is great. But again, maybe some more thought behind what can we do to kind of put together a goal and measure ourselves against how we're doing in that. And I don't know if that's just a perception question that, we have to ask, but let's see. With the community engagement, I was happy to see that we're adding a reduced rate pass for the students. That's, I think, a good idea. My question on the metric there is I think we should use the data that we already have to start the metric now as opposed to having to kind of wait a year to see where we fall, because we kind of know already, I think, what sales we have with tickets and maybe the student passes that were already purchased from last year. I think we could use that as our kind of our benchmark to see if what was instituted actually did result in the desired outcome, which is to increase the student attendance. Same thing, I guess, for the district community partnerships. We already know how many partnerships we have today, so I'd ask that we consider using that as our current baseline and try to set a metric that improves upon that, the previous year's score. Let's see, personnel and leadership. I appreciate that you were able to add some thresholds or some, I'll say, targets to the mentorship program and the recruitment process. I would potentially say, can we add a time frame to that too? I know it just says kind of by the end of the year, 95% fill rate, but do we need to put, within a month or some kind of time frame behind that metric of fill rate? The community life, the building level staff recognition program, I guess I wasn't clear on what the note meant for give to all, gains for all. Can you kind of touch on maybe what the thought was, what that means, or what you're looking for that?
Dave?
Well, it's give to all, gains for all is that we make a pledge as a school district that we're going to give our all and every opportunity for them to succeed to all kids. So no kids are left out.
Okay.
That's my general way of saying it.
And it's a good thing to strive for. I guess, how do we measure that, though? I guess, what would we use to?
I would say it's a good question. Probably how we look at it is how do we create our multi-tiered systems and supports to create a whole bunch of opportunities for kids to be successful, so different programming. We talk about the double dipping and triple dipping academically to make sure all kids get intervention or supports to be able to grow, no matter what their needs are, or for the highly capable kids, are we offering enough opportunities? So it's more about programming, it's more about supports. Do we have enough to be able to make sure all kids are getting what they need? So we pledge to give all we can possibly give in order for them to gain at the end.
Can I add, that's the academic side of it. Then when you look at the multi-tiered system of supports, there's the behavior side of it. So what is it we have to give kids? And this is all under the umbrella of intervention, whether it's reading, reading support, reading recovery, whether it's a team talk class, whether it's the student being put in a least restricted environment, setting high academic standards and behavior standards for all kids, because we know the worst thing you can do is set low standards for kids, because kids will rise to the low standards and not the high standards. So give to all, gains for all is our overall motto, our overall theme that came out of us working together as an administrative team. You heard my story, I think some of you. The whole administrative team was sitting in a room with all the districts in the county, and the presenter asked us on a 3x5 card to put down the #1 goal of the district. And they started with one school district, and as people stood up, you had to stand, not show anybody what you wrote, stand up and read what's on your card. Went around the table, all the administrators in that district were all over the place. Next one, all over the place. Got to Hartland, 100%, every single one of us stood up and read our card that said, student success, student achievement. Every single one of us. I stood up and woohoo, and the presenter said, sit down, you're not that good, right? And I'm like, but when we're all on the same page, give to all, gains for all, student intervention, whatever it takes, where do we double dip? Where do we find highly capable opportunities? Our schools do a great job with different opportunities for kids, our STEM programs. All of that is what we're talking about.
Every parent in our district expects their kids to come here and not be forgotten and make sure that everything they need to work on, we're going to hit. If the kids are soaring, how high can we get them? So everybody has their own level that they're at. We need to keep making improvements. Schools, way back in the day, I was one of them. I was an average, shy kid, did enough homework to get by, and passed the test with a B or C, and I didn't get any intervention. It'll help. Graduated high school, and there was just the typical education that was used to back in the day. We don't operate that way. Make sure that we are making sure every student gets what they need to be successful no matter what level they're at, and no matter what programming they're at. Highly capable athletics, band, music, art. Where are they, and do we have the systems in place and support mechanisms to have them grow? That's the goal at the end of the day. And that phrase came out of that meeting. We determined that's going to be our motto. That should be our motto. All kids are going to gain, no matter what.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's a great goal to aspire. It's just, it's a difficult metric to create. So just wanted to share that input.
Just note on that, Greg, that was just a note under the metric. That wasn't the metric. The metric was, did this happen or not happen, multi-year effort. That's just a note that I just wanted to emphasize to the board that that's how we go about doing business.
Right. Well, one of the benefits, obviously, the metric is you measure yourself against, right? And then you can use that to see, like, did the desired outcome come from what I had hoped for, right? And sometimes it's not gonna, and other times it will. So how do you measure yourself? I think
And it's really hard.
That's
because
the tricky part, I
It's hard
understand.
because it constantly changes. Because every month, every 6 weeks, it's all shifting depending on where the students are at. One year there could be here, one year they're over here. And as educators, we have to shift to where they are at so we can make those improvements. So it's hard to pin down one thing because it's always shifting.
That goes back to growth that you talked about, right? You can look at individual growth, and we do look at individual growth constantly at the building level, at the individual student level, right? So for instance, in Hartland, every one of our students, K4, has an individual reading plan. State law says they have to have it if they're behind grade level. We made the decision every student would have one. So our teachers are following that, constantly working with each other on identifying where our kids are, doing lip blocks and other types of opportunities to double and triple dip kids. So growth, while it's really, really important, it's probably the most important component, is how many of our students showed a year's worth of growth. The board has to understand, now you go back to proficiency scores. You could have kids that are high proficiency performers not showing a year's worth of growth. Let's say third grade, they scored a 3,000, the next 3,500, the next year they scored a 4,000 in fourth grade of 4,100. They didn't have a year's worth of growth, but they were proficient. They know what they're doing, they've got the material. Same vice versa. You could have kids that are not proficient, but certainly showed a year's worth of growth, right? They came into third grade reading at a second grade level, and or a first grade level, and at the end of third grade, they're at a second grade level. They showed a year's worth of growth, but that's not going to show up in the data we present to you. It's only going to show up in the fact that you don't know where our kids are, and we have to trust our staff that they're having those conversations at the building level with the growth of each child and where they're taking them to.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect example of kind of what I was trying to describe earlier, is why we need to look at the individual growth, right, as opposed to just the district-wide. So I appreciate that, we're on the same page there. So jumping ahead to finance, glad we were able to add at least a fund balance metric. I know Rachel would probably have already kind of used that as a target anyways, but I'd like to see it on the goal, so appreciate that. The wage scale, I wasn't quite clear on what we're using from the survey to measure the 90%, because I think the survey is kind of a general one that encompasses lots of different areas of the district and how things are going. So are we taking just a subset of the survey piece that's talking about wages and then looking at agree, strongly agree in that subset area, or is it just the overall score of the survey?
It's the overall score of, we feel as staff members that the current administration supports our efforts in the job, and we know that the number one effort every employee looks at is, am I being paid in a reasonable format? Am I being compensated appropriately? And so our job is to continue to ensure that our staff are being paid appropriately, and if they were doing that, they're going to respond. In most cases, yeah, they're looking after us, and we support the direction the administration's going.
Okay, and then thank you for that. I think the last piece with the finance and ops was the technology you had added the portion about the work order analysis of common concerns. What would we do to take that and turn it into something meaningful? Like, if we know we had 500 work orders, I guess kind of what do we do with that information?
If you look at the sheet over here that I gave you, and it's just not added on here, is 95% completion. last one.
Okay. Is there a time frame for that
By the
as
end
well?
of the year.
So on day one, if somebody submits an order by 365, you have 365 days to fix it? I don't know that we would want to do that.
I mean, it's just how quick the orders are being completed, so.
Well, my feedback is if you could consider putting a time frame on there, so. No one wants to wait for their broken car for 10 months, right? So-
What do you think's reasonable? 10 days? 5 days? Immediately? Some people, no matter how quick you get to it, they're gonna say that wasn't fast enough.
It probably depends on the
Probably
matter.
depends on what's
Exactly.
broken, right?
Yeah,
Exactly, so-
yeah. It depends on the circumstances and what the request is.
Are the work orders prioritized in the system when they go in?
From my understanding, the technology team gets the work orders and works on them as they come in. Yep.
So there's no assessment, like a triage? Well, you got to go to the ER, you can go to see the doctor in 2 weeks, or you can kind of go to urgent care? I mean, I imagine for those different scenarios, we would have a different level of
Well, if the
what's
phone-
expected.
If the phone systems is reported down, that automatically is a priority, right? Or if, Google is down, that becomes a priority. But if it's, my mouse isn't working, or my TV won't turn on, or, they go, check it out, let the staff know, oh, that's broke, we gotta do this or that, or they get it fixed, so.
I'm sure we can find a baseline somehow on what the turnaround is on average for 95% of the work orders, and just try to make sure we're improving on that year over year.
Mr. Usher collects data like that about how long it takes the tech tickets to come through, how many get completed. And so we can probably pull something together as far as that goes, and we can give it to you every month. Like, this is the amount of tickets, and this is what was accomplished. I have no sweat. Our tech team is awesome, and the data's going to show that it's unbelievable. So
Yes, so I think, again, kind of in the spirit of good to better, then let's do a little bit better than we did last year.
well, knowing it's only, you only could be so good at turning it over. You don't have endless amounts of bodies to be able to send them everywhere.
And then it becomes a maintenance goal. It's like, let's maintain this.
Yeah.
and- Yeah.
So within reason.
All right, that's what I have. Thank you again for the items that you were able to incorporate.
So I want to just, I won't rehash some of the stuff that's already been, I do appreciate that the goal objectives have been refined to have measurable metrics in most cases. I really appreciate that the administration has gone through to do that. Removing subjectivity helps everyone. I still, and also I'll point out, I really appreciate the fact in culture and learning that we're setting an expectation that parents are kept informed. That's something we've talked about. It's probably on our policy list for this year, but to make sure the expectation is parents are informed of what's going on, whether it's the 3 Rs or assemblies or whatever in the schools 100% of the time, so they have a chance to opt out. I love seeing that in writing. Thank you. The bigger picture comment I'll make is the same thing that's been mentioned before. I think some of us envisioned this strategic plan going a little differently, having some bigger, longer-term goals. And I think Mr. Keller mentioned that with some of the CTE and whatnot. I think what we have is what we have at this point, but I would really love to see a way that we could vision cast more than 12 months at a time. To look at some of those, big, hairy, audacious goals, some of those things we know we want to bring to the district, but can't be done in 12 months. Maybe can't be done in 36 months, those long-term visions. I would like to find a way that we can identify and pursue those. If it's, obviously it didn't work, it didn't happen with the strategic plan. Maybe there's a different name for it, I don't know, but a way that we can identify ways to really step up our game when it comes, CTE or buildings, facilities, programs, all that, with just the changing environment that we all see in education. I think there's some big opportunities, and would like to find a way to address that. I think this was a great exercise to get everyone on the same page and get input from the community, and in that sense, a big success. I think there's something, maybe it's the 3 to 5 year, not the 1 to 3 year, but some way we can look out a little further. And that's always tough for boards that turn over frequently, but would love to see it. But thank you for the work and the measurable metrics. It is appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Is there any further discussion? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 3B, future bond for discussion.
So one of the items in the strategic plan is to begin looking at, what does the future look like? What does the future for Hartland look like in regards to bonding? As you know, we are finishing up our 2020 bond this year. I do have many of our constituents knocking on my door asking me about future bonds. What's it going to look like? When are we going to get X, Y, and Z? Since this year, obviously, I will continue to hold coffees and times with the community to come in, working with DPAC, working with the senior center, working with students at the high school. All of the places that I go and talk to people, I think it's time for us to start getting input on what the next future bond should look like. Now, we have here at central office started a list of future bond projects that we think need to be done. A lot of those are the non-glorious things, right? Like air conditioning and doors and things like that, roofs and parking lots. But I'd like to have the board's permission to start going out and facilitating conversations about future bond projects. When could it look like? I'm not asking the board to commit to a date right now. I just want the board at the next meeting to be able to say, yeah, we give you blessing to start at least pulling together thoughts on what a future bond might look like. And so I think it's important. I don't think we want to wait too long. And so we might as well start a list now, and then we can go from there in regards to the board actually making in-depth conversations at the table or having in-depth conversations, and then a plan for the future bond. So just be aware that at the next meeting, I would like an action item giving me and my team permission to start having those conversations with the community, because I think they need to happen.
So if the board did or did not, what does that permission look like? I guess I'm trying to understand.
Just a resolution that says that the board gives votes, to give the superintendent permission to start having conversation and collecting input on the future bond projects. If the board were to say, no, we don't want anything to do with that, then the board's telling me as a superintendent, we're not interested in pursuing any kind of bond in the near future, so keep your mouth quiet and don't say anything and keep moving on. That's what the board would be telling me.
So the conversations would be with parents, community, like you did in 2019 before you did the 2020, where you met with parent groups, and so that's what you're asking, there'll be permission to do that.
Yeah, and basically a reminder of the 2020 bond. First, we put together these lists based on talking to lots of people. Then we took those lists and we actually, when the board was ready to say, okay, we need to pursue the next bond, we started having community feedback where we brought those lists to the community. And we asked the community for feedback on the lists that we had collected. What are priorities, what are not priorities? And so we had lots of conversations about that. And then from there, once the board says, yeah, let's get some work going, then we work with our attorneys and our potential future project managers, and we start budgeting what a bond would cost based on what's on the list. If the cost is $10 billion, the board would say pare that down and help us pare that down to a manageable number that we would have our finance people tell us, here's what we think you could do. In the hopes, of course, as I've been saying since I was superintendent, one of the things I want to, if it's not me, it's the next superintendent sitting in this chair, be able to say to the community, by passing this bond, you're going from 9.49, which is our current bond millage rate assessed to all of the people in our community down to 6, 6.5, 5.5, whatever number, you actually save money by passing this bond package on whatever that looks like. So lots of work to do around that. That's just giving you a scenario. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like now, but we can't do anything without what do we want, what's it going to look like, what's the list, assess the list, this is what we think it'll cost. Okay, board, what are you willing to go out there to the public with? Lots of conversations, but it's got to start someplace.
Are there, and this might be a question for Rachel, are there kind of some baselines or guidelines that the board could get as far as, you know, kind of debt to income ratios, if you will? Like what is a safe amount of debt for a district to have versus compared to their revenue?
It's kind of a loaded question. It's because it's different. It's a different metric for everybody. I think the only group that looks at debt to income ratios really is Moody's, who's the bond rating company, right? But each community is different. You know, our community is what we call a bedroom community, where most of our rooftops are homes. So we don't have a huge taxable base. And so that's why our millage rate is what it is, so that we could generate that revenue to do what we need to do. I haven't updated numbers, but back when we were talking about the 2020 bond, you know, 1 mil here in Hartland got us like $600,000. The same mill in Howell got double. So there's inequity there when it comes to these kind of situations. So, you know, I don't know that there's necessarily a target that says this should be this because of this. Because at the end of the day, we're not going to get ourselves in a position where we can't pay our bonds. Like the state will not approve that at all. You know, they'll look at those projections and say, no, this isn't going to happen. They'll look at taxable values, they'll look at projected taxable value growth, and they'll say, nope, there's no way that you're going to be able to meet this debt obligation. So that's kind of part of the analysis too, like Mr. Hughes said, is that when you build your bond package, you know, you see what can you afford, you know, what with the millage that you have. You know, last time we were adamant that we didn't want the millage to be any higher than X. And so what did that get us? It got us Y. And so then we had to pare down that list. You know, this time around, maybe we're in a situation and that, you know, we have a list, yet we could raise more than we needed to. So then maybe we need to wait a couple more years until those two things meet. So it's really not a debt to income ratio sort of question. It's more so what makes sense for what we need to do and what's on the list. So sorry, I don't really have a great answer.
No, that helps. I think it's fair to, and you talked about kind of set the expectation up front, so we're not getting ahead of ourselves or, you know, doubling our debt or whatever, which would be very easy to do. You know, there was just a school district in the news, you know, trying to build a $110 million sports facility for like 1,000 students or something like that. It was kind of insane. Just want to be responsible and just looking to see if there's some general, I guess where I was going is, you know, Mr. Hughes was talking about a resolution. Instead of having it open-ended, I thought maybe it would make sense to have some sort of expectation built into that, whether it's a not to exceed millage rate or just kind of a general starting point of what we're kind of thinking.
I think that would be really, really, really hard to do, because remember, all we're doing is starting the conversation of, hey, community, if we had money to bond for, what are the things that you would like to see in our district, and creating that list. The next work would go to having a company like Barton Mallow start estimating what all of those things would cost and saying, hey, board, this wish list that Mr. Hughes collected is worth $500 million. Well, guess what? You can't afford that. So then we had to pare that down. So those are where all those conversations go. So I think all I'm asking for is, if you want to call it permission to at least have the conversation with the community that the board is aware of. Maybe you don't want to do a resolution. Maybe you just want to say, yeah, we're aware you're having conversations, Mr. Hughes. Just, I know this, I thought this board kind of operates from this idea that everything has to be a policy and resolution. Maybe it's just, I'm informing you, board, that I'm going to start having these conversations and creating a list. And so that might get the conversation started down the road on what the bond might look like in the future. So I don't care which way we do it. I was just trying to do it the way I think this board tends to operate. But if you just say, thanks for letting us know where, at least where you're going to have these conversations, that's great. That's all.
Mr. Hughes, have you and Rachel talked about a timeline of when you think we would go for a bond? 2027, 6? Not a surprise you have a chart.
I have a beautiful chart.
Not that we're holding you to anything, but just what, if you have an idea.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a couple different scenarios, and really kind of what I was talking before, it's really going to depend largely on what taxable values do in the next year, because that really dictates when your school bond loan fund is paid down, which dictates what the millage is going to be and how much revenue you can generate. So there's a lot of different opportunities. I think it could probably be as early as August of '27 for an election, based on kind of when all those calculations and stuff take place. We could delay it as far as May of '28. It's really going to depend on what those taxable values do. It's going to depend on what's on the list. It's going to depend on where the board feels the millage should be. All those things kind of are all working together to put together a bond package.
Just to clarify, though, I don't think there's any request to spend money, right? You just want to have conversations.
So again, I don't.
So as part of running the district, you already have permission to do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you're looking for some support from the board to do it?
Just so you
Okay.
guys know I'm doing it.
Just trying to make sure I'm on the same page.
And like, you just do that right here and say, yeah, we're aware of it, thanks for bringing it to our attention, and move on. I'm okay with that. So.
I personally don't feel that a resolution is required, but I'm happy to put one on the agenda for next month. If anybody else feels the need to include a resolution next month to officially grant permission for Chuck and his team to start having these conversations, we can do that. Otherwise, I think I would be good with just telling Chuck right now, we're good with it.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be something as formal as a resolution. I would be interested in maybe just kind of seeing, just even if it's just a list of what you kind of mentioned, ideas for how we are going to reach out and who we're going to reach out to, maybe just so we can sort of generate some feedback on that. Maybe making sure we're hitting all the groups. I know I was talking to some out-of-state board members about their bond process is very different. We don't want to go there, but they take their top employers and poll them about what brings employees to the area. Now that can also result in spending a lot of money, but I think if we just had an idea of, just to make it a group effort and solicit feedback on how we're going to reach out to the community in a way that doesn't scare people or generate some expectations one way or the other. But I certainly support the idea of starting those conversations.
I agree, Mrs. Coleman. I don't think we need to vote or do a resolution. I would be in support of just, saying Chuck can move forward.
So I will put together, I'll just leave this meeting with, I'm going to start these conversations. That's what I hear. We don't have to do a resolution at the next meeting. In the meantime, I'll send you guys a list of thoughts on who I'm going to talk to, what that's going to look like. If you have some other thoughts, throw them my way, and we'll go from there, okay? And if anybody asks you in the community, just say, this isn't spending money, this is just collecting a wish list, right? Let's call it a wish list.
Yep, collecting the data.
Yep, all right.
Okay, awesome. All right, moving on, item 4A, future meetings. You'll note that the policy committee meeting is listed here, August 28th at 6:30. And just a reminder, this.
August 25th.
25th,
Sorry,
thank
you
you.
said Nate.
I did. Just a reminder, this is intended as like the discussion part of our policy process, right? So we'll be discussing the policies, we'll have an agenda, we'll have a revised packet, we'll be adding some more stuff to that list that Renee has already sent out to us. But this is intended as the discussion portion, and the intent, unless we determine in that meeting that there's a policy that requires further discussion, or maybe we decide not to make the change, we don't need to carry it forward. The intent is to carry all those policy changes or updates forward to the next regular meeting. So we'll revisit them at the next meeting for a vote, September 15th at 6:30. All right, any informational items? Anything else? Anybody has anything to add? All right, item 5. Closed session, settlement strategy discussion.
I move that the Board of Education enters into closed session under Section 8(1)(e) of the Open Meetings Act to discuss settlement strategy concerning Vanderland versus Hartland Consolidated Schools with the district's attorney. A closed session will be held because discussing settlement strategy publicly would be financially detrimental to the district.
Support.
Okay, motion for closed session from Mrs. Shaw, support by Mr. Campbell. Is there any discussion? Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that motion passes.
Mrs. Coleman, can I ask you to go ahead and let the audience know that Cameron can shut it down because we're not coming back after closed session except to adjourn. There's no board business after this session, so there's really no sense in keeping Cameron and everybody else here.
That's true. We will
So-
just be coming back to adjourn, and the time of adjournment will be included in the minutes when that's published. But yeah, there will be nothing else further that we'll be discussing here at the table when we return. So, we're good. All right.
Thank you.
On to closed
We'll take a
session.
break, and we'll meet in the